If I asked you right now how many financial accounts you have, most of you would probably say something like two or three, maybe four if you're really on top of things. But here's what I found after working with people in retirement and on the way to retirement. It's not really about how many accounts you have. It's about if the right money is in the right place, doing the right job. Because the people who struggle in retirement, they usually don't have a savings problem. They have an organization problem. Today, we're going over 6 specific accounts. You've heard of all of them. And then I'm going to show you how to actually use them all together. Because knowing what a Roth IRA is and knowing how to deploy it as part of a coordinated retirement income plan are two completely different things. I also have one bonus account type for you retirement sickos out there, so make sure to stick around until the very end of this video. This is a brand new channel, by the way. It would help a ton if you liked this video and left a comment letting me know what you think. Let's get into it. Before I go any further, this channel and the financial planning firm that I own is built for people in what I call the retirement red zone. That's roughly 5 years before you retire and the 10 years after. If you're in that window, this video is for you. And just to be upfront, I am a certified financial planning professional. I run a fee-only financial planning firm, but I am not your financial planner. I do not know your specific situation. This is educational content only. Some of what I cover today is genuinely complex, taxes especially. So I'd strongly encourage you to work with a retirement specialist who can apply all of this stuff to your specific situation. With that being said, let's run through all of the accounts quickly, and then we're going to spend the rest of the video on what most videos never get to, which is the actual strategies of how to use these to your advantage. Account number 1 is the checking account. You've got one, you use it every day. I'm not going to spend much time here except to say the role of your checking account changes in retirement. And most people don't think about that until they're already there. We'll come back to the floor strategy in a few minutes. Let's talk about account number 2, which is a high yield savings account. This one is simple, but massively underutilized. About 80% of people are still sitting in a regular savings account or just letting cash pile up in their checking account, earning basically nothing. The math on this is embarrassing when you look at it. $100,000 in a traditional savings account at the national average rate earns you roughly $60 a year. That same $100,000 in a high yield savings account right now, closer to $4,000 or $5,000 a year. It has the same FDIC insurance, it has the same access, but dramatically more interest. And the main reason that people don't switch is just inertia. And I get it. Inertia is costing you real money though. Account number 3 is your employer retirement plan, something like a 401k or maybe a 403b if you're a public employee. You know what these are. For most people in this retirement zone, this is where the bulk of your retirement savings lives. I'm not going to dwell on the basics here, but there are some serious pitfalls with having too much concentrated in a pre-tax account that we absolutely need to talk about in the strategy section. That's coming up next. Account number 4 is your traditional IRA. It has the same tax structure basically as the 401k, which is pre-tax in, and then it's taxed on the way out as income. But this one isn't tied to your employer. You can open it up anywhere. And one question I get constantly is, can I contribute to an IRA if I already have a 401k at work? The short answer is yes, but whether you can deduct it depends on your income. There are tables for this, which I'll share. It's worth looking up and asking your advisor. Account number 5 is the Roth IRA. The Roth is the one that most people wish they had more of by the time that they get to retirement. No deduction going in, you contribute after-tax dollars, but it grows tax-free and it comes out as tax-free in retirement. And unlike the traditional IRA or 401k, there are no required minimum distributions while you're alive. That last part is way important than most people realize. We'll get into the why. There are income limits on Roth contributions that you need to know about, and if your income is above some of those thresholds, there's still a strategy called a backdoor Roth. I'll mention it in the strategy section, and if you want a full dedicated video on it, just drop that in the comments. The last account, account number 6, is the taxable brokerage account. This is one of the most underrated account types in a retirement plan, and the reason that it matters so much isn't what happens while you're building it and while you're saving, it's how flexible it becomes in retirement. Think of it like a bank account that's also invested. You can put money in, you can take money out anytime. There's no penalties, there's no rules about age or income. And the difference from a regular bank account is that your money is invested in things like stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds. And if you hold things longer than a year, any gains are taxed at a long-term capital gains rate, which is usually lower than your ordinary income tax rate. The mistake I see constantly is that people are saving very aggressively into their 401k and IRA, which is great, but they're completely ignoring the brokerage account. And then when they actually get to retirement and they're trying to build a tax-efficient income plan, they have almost no flexibility because everything is locked up in pre-tax accounts. So those are the 6 accounts. I'm keeping the bonus one hidden for now. And let's talk about how to actually use them. Okay, so before I get into the account by account strategies, I want to reframe something for you. Most financial content, and honestly most of the industry, is obsessed with the investment plan, the returns, the allocation, the funds. And yes, that does matter, but it's one of the 3 things that you need to get right in retirement. The second one is the income plan. So where does your money actually come from each month? What accounts are you drawing from, in what order and when? But the third one is the tax plan, because the difference between a good retirement and a great retirement for most people isn't the returns that they earn, because you and I can't control the returns that you earn. It is much more about the taxes and how to get as much of your money back into your pockets and keep away from the IRS. And here's the thing about working with an investment-only advisor. They're really good at that first one, but the income plan and the tax plan, that is where retirement specialists like me earn their fee. That's what I'm going to show you for the rest of this video. So in your working years, your checking account had a natural surplus. Your paycheck comes in, you spent less than you made, and the balance went up. Pretty easy. In retirement, that dynamic completely flips. You have a set amount coming in each month from wherever your income sources are. Maybe that's Social Security, and it might be close to what you're spending. That's fine. But it means that the floor to your checking account needs to change in retirement. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say you're spending $10,000 a month in retirement and you've got $10,000 a month coming in. If your floor on your checking account is 0, you've got no buffer. One unexpected expense like car repair, medical bill, home repair, you're scrambling to find where that money is coming from. And what I see most successful retirees do is just raise that floor to 1 or 2 months of expenses. So if you're spending $10,000 a month, your floor in your checking account might be $10,000 or $20,000. You start a month with $20,000, income comes in and it becomes $30,000, and then you spend that back down to $20,000. That's the cycle. It sounds really simple, but having that buffer removes a huge amount of month-to-month pain and stress. And in retirement, that stress reduction is a huge part of your plan. Now, if you've ever seen a video on a bucket strategy, the high yield savings account is often that first bucket, the one closest to cash, and it's the one that tends to be the most conservative. It's the one that covers some of those near-term expenses. The purpose of this bucket is really specific. It exists so that you don't have to sell investments when the market is down. Think about what happened in 2008 or even in 2020. Markets dropped really hard and really fast. The people who panicked and sold locked in very real losses in their investments. But the people that had 1 or 2 years of expenses sitting in a stable cash account, they didn't have to touch their portfolio at all, and they could just wait for the recovery. That is the job of a high yield savings account. It is not a growth account. It is not a growth engine. It is a stability account. And right now, that stability actually earns you something meaningful. That's not always, by the way, going to be the case. Rates move with the Fed, but take advantage of it while it's there. One warning, by the way, I do occasionally hear people saying something like, well, rates are at 5% right now. That's basically my minimum return target anyway. I'm just going to put everything in a high yield savings account. Please don't do this. Interest rates can change and they will change fast. This account, again, is for stability and near-term income. It is not for your entire retirement portfolio. Okay, in this next section, I really want you to pay attention because we're talking about your tax-deferred dollars. A lot of people have spent their careers doing what they were told. Max out your 401k, take the pre-tax deduction, let it grow, and that is good advice to a point. The problem is that a lot of people in this retirement zone, by the time that they're looking at their accounts, 90% of their retirement savings is now sitting in that one specific tax treatment. They don't fully realize until it's too late what that actually means. So here's what this actually looks like. At age 73, if you were born between 1951 and 1959, the IRS requires you to start taking money out of your IRA or 401k, whether you want to or not. These are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. If you were born in 1960 or later, congratulations, that age is raised to 75. Now, if you miss these required minimum distributions, you're looking at a penalty of up to 25% on the amount that you should have taken. And here's the thing about RMDs. They don't care whether you need the money or not. They don't care if the market is down or up. They don't care if you're already in a high tax bracket from other income. You have to take the distribution or you pay the tax. End of story. I've talked to people who were really blindsided by this. They've done everything right for 30 years, and then in their mid-70s, they found out their RMDs were going to push them into a much higher tax bracket than they'd expected for the rest of their life. There's not much they can do about it. That is a tax bomb that is avoidable if you plan ahead. So here's what you can actually do about it. The Roth conversion sweet spot. Let's draw this out. You retire at 65, your Social Security is optimized to start at 70, your RMDs kick in at 73. You now have a window from 65 to 70, maybe even 73, in what I call the Roth conversion sweet spot. Here's why that's actually the case. You have stopped working, so your earned income is now gone. You haven't yet started your Social Security, and you're not taking RMDs as well. Your taxable income for those years might be the lowest that it'll be for the rest of your life. That is the moment to convert money that is tax deferred into tax-free. You take money out of your traditional IRA, you pay income tax on it that year, and you move it into a Roth IRA. It hurts just a little bit in the year that you do it, but for every dollar that you convert, it is now tax-free for the rest of your life. It grows tax-free and it comes out as tax-free. It's no longer subject, by the way, to RMDs. The goal isn't necessarily to convert everything, it's just to convert the right amount each year to fill up a lower tax bracket, whether that's 12% or 22%, without tipping into something much higher and triggering something extra like Medicare premium charges, which is something called IRMAA. We can talk about that in a different video. And what I really want you to focus on is that the people that do this well are the ones that planned ahead for it. Which brings me to the account that makes all of this possible, the brokerage account, the unsung hero of retirement tax plans. So here's that same scenario. You're 65 years old, you retire, and you want to do Roth conversions for the next 5 to 8 years. But you've got to live on something during that time, right? If you're pulling from a traditional IRA for your income, you are increasing your taxable income because of it, which means less room to convert to Roth. If you start Social Security early, same problem. You need a source of income that doesn't blow up your tax strategy. That source is your taxable brokerage account. Money in a taxable brokerage account does not create taxable income just because it exists. You are the one that controls when you sell. And if you hold investments for more than a year, any gains are taxed at long-term capital gains rates, which, depending on your income, might actually be 0%. That is not a typo or me misspeaking. So the setup is, you fund your living expenses from the brokerage account, you do your Roth conversions from the IRA, and you let both things happen simultaneously. The brokerage keeps your taxable income low enough that the conversions stay in a favorable tax bracket for you. This is the coordination that most investment-only advisors are not doing with their clients. It requires looking at all three pillars together, again, investments, income, and taxes, at the same time. A few other brokerage-specific strategies worth knowing, by the way, tax loss harvesting. So if some of your holdings are down, you can sell them to realize a loss, which offsets some gains elsewhere in your portfolio. You can then reinvest in something similar, and this is an ongoing strategy. It is not a one-time thing. Your advisor should be doing this throughout the year. Also, asset location. We know about asset allocation, which is how you split between stocks and bonds and cash, but the location of which accounts hold which assets are extremely important. Tax inefficient investments, things that kick off a lot of ordinary income like bond funds or actively managed funds, are better held inside of your IRA where that income is sheltered. Tax efficient stuff like broad index ETFs make way more sense in the brokerage account where you can control when you realize gains. It is a small thing on paper, but over time it adds up significantly. Okay, 2 quick strategies before we get to the secret account. The spousal IRA. So if you are married and one of you is working and the other is not, the non-working spouse can still contribute to their own IRA or Roth IRA, even with zero earned income of their own. The contribution is based on the working spouse's income. This is a completely legal and completely underutilized strategy. Then we have the backdoor Roth. So if your income is too high to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, there is a workaround. Essentially, you just contribute to a non-deductible traditional IRA. You use no tax deduction, so just use after-tax dollars in, and then convert it to the Roth in the same year. There are some tax mechanics involved that you need to get right, particularly if you have other traditional IRA balances elsewhere. But if you're in a high income situation and you want more Roth exposure, this is the path. Let me know in the comments if you want a full dedicated video on this one, just because there is a lot more to it. Okay, now the bonus secret account that you've all been waiting for. It is the health savings account, or an HSA. This is my favorite account that most people are barely using. The HSA is the only account in the tax code that gives you a triple tax advantage. So you contribute with pre-tax dollars. There's a deduction going in. It grows tax-free inside of the account. And if you use it for qualified medical expenses, it comes out tax-free as well. That is a deduction like a traditional IRA, growth like a Roth, and spending like a Roth. No other account does all three. All right, let's bring this all back together. 6 total accounts: checking account, high yield savings account, 401k or 403b, traditional IRA, Roth IRA, taxable brokerage, and HSA. Whew. On their own, each is just a container. It is a place to store money. But when you coordinate them, when the checking account has the right floor, when the high yield savings account is your near-term buffer, when the HSA is working triple overtime on Medicare costs, you have a Roth conversion strategy running in the background, and when the brokerage account is doing its job as tax-efficient income, that is beautiful. That is when the retirement stops being stressful and starts being something that you actually plan for. The 3 things that drive successful retirement, again, investment plan, income plan, and tax plan. Most people only have the first one. So if you have questions about any of this, any of the specific strategies that I mentioned, or if you want me to go deeper on something like the backdoor Roth or IRMA or bucket strategies, leave a comment down below and I'll either answer it in the comments or turn it into the next video. Now again, this is a brand new channel, so if you found this helpful at all, I would love for you to hit the like button. It really helps me and it helps more people find this type of video. And subscribe if you want to keep going deeper on stuff like this. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.